there's nothing of historical value left in the house. And she said, well, wait till you see the backyard. Well, her dad owns a skate park in Little Five Points, and the whole backyard was a skate park, a concrete skate park.
Oh my
And I was
gosh.
like, I said, if you had anything of historical value to be 1.2, I said, it's 864. And she goes, we're looking for 1 million. Another agent got it. So another guy, I'm sitting there with him, and he's like, he spent $250,000 on the renovation. And he says, I want 699, and I'm not going to take a cent less. Well, here we are a month later, no second showings, and I'm helping other folks sell their home. But I know if I go in for a price reduction, he's going to fire me. But that goes back to motivation. So he's not really that motivated. So, you know, I almost got it sold last 2 days ago, but they picked one that was closer. So you never know. But the bottom line is, if you and it's so I've been doing this 34 years. The agent that tells them the highest price, even though I've got all those objections, don't pick your agent based on price, based on their experience, all this other stuff, and they don't understand, and they just go with whoever tells them. Listen, don't listen to John Johnson. I can get you that price. So they got the listing. They got a listing for 1 million. And 2 months later, they're going to say, I really tried. We probably need a price reduction around 900. And then
Mm-hmm.
3 months later, we probably need to go to 824. And I checked the listing in 8 months. There it is under contract for 864, just like I told them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that journey that, they'll go on. So we're going to talk about that today because that's a great point. And there's, ways to help people self-discover stuff if they're to that point of wanting to self-discover. So again, it's our sanity that we're trying to protect too, and our name in the industry. Like I would tell people, please don't advertise that you have a price improvement or a price reduction, because as soon as I see that, I think one, if I'm a buyer's agent, I'm going in lower, and two, I'm thinking, you just told everybody that you didn't price it right to begin with. So I'm always like, please don't promote that. Like I don't like advertising ever that anything has had a price reduction, because the first thing I think of is either you should have priced it right to begin with, or oh, let's go make an offer even lower, because what starts in motion stays in motion. So I always tell people, just do the price reduction, but don't say anything. But anyway, well, we could talk about that later. White, what's going on with you out there?
I'm saying the same thing. I went to one on Saturday, which I don't break out, Holly. I don't work on weekends, but
No, look
I
at
went.
you. I'm
Yeah,
impressed.
I went on one up in Gainesville behind the hospital, and they paid 325 for it 19. They have literally all they pulled up. This house was built in the 60s, so if you know anything about Gainesville, it's behind the hospital. Be a great house.
Mhm.
But they said they've updated it. But all they did was pull the carpet up and go
Mhm.
to Home Depot and buy flooring in a box.
Mhm.
It's not hardwood floors, not real hardwood floors. And I got a email back Sunday night saying they chose somebody else. Well, they'd had it on the market at 925, and they wanted to know why they had not one showing, but zero showings. And when you
Mhm.
tell them the truth, they don't want to hear it. I'm
Yeah.
not going to take the overpriced listing.
Yeah.
I had one back in the summer that showed 115 times, but the guy had known me since I was 5 years old, and I knew he wasn't going anywhere. And we finally sold it for $115,000 less than asking. Now it had some other location issues, but they just aren't. They don't want to hear what they think we're stuck in 2021, and the agents are picking. I don't know how many people watched the Buffini thing, but that they think they can get whatever they want to get, and they can't.
Yeah. So it's our job to kind of help
But
them
you
through
try to
that.
tell, and I know where you're going. You're talking about I think you're talking about the traffic light presentation,
Yeah.
but you can tell them all day long,
You have to
and they
show.
and you show them, and they still, and I can, in this particular house, it's on 2 acres. and and they hadn't, but a family before had enclosed the garage and had no parking for houses, you know, they think's worth almost $1 million, and it's not. And
Yeah.
everything in the neighborhood, I rode through the neighborhood. Everything in the neighborhood has been redone, or it appears
Yeah.
to have been redone. That
Right.
so I just walk away from them. And
Yeah.
don't have any hard and don't think another thing. Now, would I take it at the right price all day long? But I phone ain't gonna ring at that price.
No, exactly. And you're not really helping them anyway. So, and you're definitely
No,
not helping yourself. The only people that help themselves are the ones that's a strategy for them. And there are people that's a strategy. So we don't need to talk about them, right? Because we don't care about them. We care
right.
about us and what we're going to do to over deliver and over communicate. All right. Anybody have one more? We'll take one more person, have a recent example of something they want to share. BJ, do you have anything?
Nothing to add.
Oh,
No.
okay. Well, I saw your little square go green, so I didn't know if you were getting ready to
Yeah.
say something. I didn't want to cut you off.
Oh,
Nice to have you on. So, hey, Stacy. All right,
hey,
so let's go ahead and kind of start a little bit. I'm going to pull up just we're not going to go through this whole thing at all. I have all of this information that I will include. We can include this when we upload it. This is just the 7-step pricing strategy. There's nuggets in here I want to talk about today. We are not the pricing strategy, the whole darn thing. I think we spent hours on, right? This today is an hour class. So we're going to get to the meat of some key things that I think you all can utilize in your conversations, and just in other things that you're working on when it comes to pricing. So let me just get this in presentation mode so we can see it a little bit more. And I'm going to jump around a little bit. So, oops. I went too fast. Fine. Okay. So when we were just kind of talking about, like, if you're going on expireds or you're going into someone and they're kind of have their feet in the ground, there's a reason that sellers have certain perceptions about things, right? They're talking to all kinds of different realtors with all kinds of different strategies because we don't have a one size fits all business. And that's a blessing and it's a darn curse. Because if everything was, hey, this is the way we do it, this is how it's done, then it really comes down to who do you like as opposed to who's got a better thing, right? So there's always going to be someone that's out there that is going to be the one that's just going to let the seller do what they want and not give them any other information. So when we're thinking about it, we have folks that are out there that there are people that have incomplete information. So there are agents out there that have lack of knowledge, lack of training, lack of access to really good tools, lack of access to good dialogues and good communication skills, right? So we just have we have people out there, as we know, there's 50 something thousand agents. Do we think that they're all going to be top-notch skilled? I don't know, probably not. Right? We know we probably have co-opted with some that are less than stellar, and we've co-opted with ones that we actually admire. Right? So there's a range of agents out there, and that's also clouding up the way the consumer is getting and chewing on their information. We also have agents that lack confidence. And so when you don't have confidence in what you're presenting and what your skill set is, then you are pretty much going to submit to that seller's demands because you don't know how to overcome it. You don't know how to question it properly. You don't know how to counterbalance that. So you're just going to say, okay, well, whatever they say, I guess I'm going to do it. Something's better than nothing, right? And sometimes we fall into that trap when we're new into the industry. We just want a listing. Then we have lack of just judgment, right? Agents that think only about taking the listing. And I think Cleve talked a little bit about that, givers and takers. People that'll go on appointments and, the reasoning behind taking that overpriced listing is simply to leverage the sign. Now we leverage our signs, Because the goal for every agent at Remax Center is to have one buyer or seller and to have 3 more pieces of business within 60 days of closing. So that's the proactive and intentional model that I teach every agent. So every agent that I work with, that's the goal. Are you getting 3 more within 60 days? We have a tracking mechanism. If you're not, then it's harder to scale your business. And you're going to feel like you're on the hamster wheel longer and longer because you're not growing by 3 from every one. I see people do that all the time. When you put a sign in the yard, you are actually either helping other agents stay in business or you're growing your own. But you're not doing both. So you've got to be the one that's capitalizing on the sign in the yard, not letting everybody else. And then there's just some people that want to they just don't. I don't think people don't care. I just think they just want to leverage the listing because they're transactional and they really don't care. Maybe they don't care. I don't know. But anyway, I can't worry about that. So what we want to do is we want to lead our sellers in a way that they will self-discover where they need to price the house, because we have presented them with logical and tangible data. It's not a 40-page CMA. That's for the unskilled, because that requires very little skill to go in and create a CMA with pictures and all this kind of stuff that is not logical at all for a seller to be able to follow. They can't follow that data in a tangible way that makes sense for them to self-discover where they're going to price the house. So what we want to do is, instead of telling people what to do, we want to work it where we are actually having a conversation and it's a dialogue and we are leading them down this path. And the only way to lead them down a path is to make sure that you're putting stuff in front of them that actually makes sense, that they can look at and they can see what it is you're talking about. And so many of the tools that are out there is not doing any of that at all. So it doesn't matter what we say, it matters what we show them. And what tool are you using to show them where it's concise, it's in one location, and they are looking at it systematically and tangibly and logically, and they're going to go, oh my gosh, I guess I can't price it at that. Because if I price it there, I don't have what all the other homes had that sold there. So why would I think that I could get away with it? Well, you can't. You're going to end up on the rejected by the market list. So when you can show them these 3 spreadsheets, which is what we recommend, I don't care what else you bring them. If you want to bring them all kinds of slides and this and Remax and all these other things. But when it comes to the pricing, it is down and dirty and it is 3 spreadsheets and we have writing on it and we have highlighting on it. And we're like, that's where we bring our skill, is in pricing. And if it doesn't look like you did anything other than grab some stuff, hit print and put it in color, they're not going to believe a darn thing that you've just said, because it looks like every other person that's come in here and whoever's got the highest price wins. So there's a few things that we definitely want to make sure. We want to separate ourselves. We don't want to be typical. We want to be unique. So the 7-step pricing strategy, yes, it requires effort. Thank God we get to earn our income, right? We get to earn that listing because people are going to be like, dang, she did all that. Dang, she knows what she's talking about. I cannot counteract her. I mean, I have to just, she's got the data right here. It proves it. But it's the way you present the data. And it's what the data looks like. That's important line. So the bottom line is, if a seller is unwilling to listen to you and you've actually presented tangible, logical data, then we would define those individuals as unreasonable. And as we say right here, life is too short and costs are too high to be in a relationship with unreasonable sellers. So we just don't do it. And you know what? White knows this because he makes expired calls all the time. So if you have enough choice out there, it's so easy to say no to people. The reason that people don't say no is because they have no choice. They have nothing else going on. But I think, and I know it from y'all, I've had people call me and go, I just fired a client and it feels so good, because they know that is draining them. If you are in an unhealthy relationship, if I talk to an agent and I say, hey, how's it going? Well, it's fine except for my overpriced listing. And now they're like trashing on their client. I'm like, that just sounds awful and it's not healthy and it's not good for the industry. So if you are in an unhealthy relationship with a client, that right away is awful. Like that is just awful. I'd rather have no business than have a bad client who's probably never going to refer you, by the way. If you have to do a price reduction more than once, you might sell the house. They may never say anything to your face, but you are never getting a referral. So you just cut yourself off from ever having future business. Jared James says every client's worth about $171,000 over the life of the relationship. Well, that doesn't come from sales. That comes from usually 1 or 2 sales over 5 years and a bunch of referrals. You're not getting any referrals when you do a price reduction. Very rare. They might not trash you. They might not say anything to your face, but go back and look at all your price reductions and you put over to the side how many people have they referred you since they closed. That's a good indicator of how price reductions remain in the brain of them, even though it was their fault. They don't care. They forget that. They don't take responsibility. So anyway, what we want to do is we want to take a different approach. So we are going to use spreadsheets. So we are not going to do the 40-page CMA. Now, if you want to have a bunch of other slides backing up your exposure plan, your experience, all that, that's totally different. But the data, I don't even think it should include photos. I think all the comps that you are going to go through with your client should be emailed to them prior to the event. And you should send them all the photos and all the stuff and say, these are all the properties that we will be discussing. And you can let them go through all of those on their own. And then you're going to show up with a spreadsheet because photos bring people to what? What do people get attached to when they start looking at photos?
Emotions.
Emotions.
My house is better.
Yeah, my house is better than that. Look at that. Oh my God, that's trash, right? So, and of course, every seller has the best home on the planet. We know that. We're going into the best home on the planet. So we are going to do something different. So on the pricing, whenever you see pricing, do we have a fiduciary duty to our clients?
Yes.
No,
Not in Georgia.
not in Georgia. So when you're looking through these slides later, never say that you have a fiduciary. You'll hear it from all the trainers around the country because a lot of states absolutely do have a fiduciary responsibility. We do not. We work under BRETA, which is the Brokerage Relationships in a Real Estate Transaction Act, which was established in the early 90s. So we do not have that. We follow our listing brokerage engagement commitments. So just make sure when you see that, you're going to hear and see it all the time. Don't say that because you could be hurting yourself actually.
Yeah,
So
and
when you
Wise is very, very specific about that. He says never say you have a fiduciary responsibility.
right. So just get that out of your brain in Georgia. Okay. So what we're going to do, I'm going to show you what these spreadsheets look like because I'm going to cut to the chase. You're going to get this slide deck. You're going to be able to see it. This is a collaborative approach. This is what I want you to take away right here. Do you see the 7-step pricing strategy with that little, what's that little 2 letters up there?
Trademark.
Trademarked. Well, when people see trademarked, what do they just automatically think? I mean, you probably too. Like if you really give it thought, what comes into y'all's head?
It's legitimate.
Legitimate. I love that. What else? That's a great way to describe it. What else would consumers think when they see that little TM?
Somebody paid for it.
Somebody paid for it. What else?
It has been tested.
It's been tested. I mean, I love it. We could probably put in the ChatGPT, my new buddy, and put in, hey, what do consumers think when they see trademark? And you should start capitalizing on that. The 7-step pricing strategy is trademarked to RE/MAX. So we're the ones that got this with the momentum. And you need to be, we actually use that 7-step pricing strategy, TM, in our postcards, in our marketing, in advertising, because nobody else can use that. They're not allowed. So that's the first thing I want to make sure people, and if you're like, well, I don't want to go through the 7 steps, trust me, with all the stuff you're doing, it's going to seem like 7 steps. You don't have to outline the 7 steps unless you want to. I have a document that outlines it, but don't worry. But this is it in a nutshell. You're going to be giving them 3 different spreadsheets. The first spreadsheet are the successful sellers, right? Those are the people that sold within the last 6 months. And we are going to break everything into a range. So every spreadsheet is going to have a high range, a mid range, and a low range of comps. Because when we go on an appointment, we are not picking apples to apples. We are bringing in comps of every home that sells. What a lot of people miss the boat on is they'll just go, if I'm going on a 3-2 slab, they're just going to go find homes that are 3-2 slabs. Say, these are all the comps. And that's all fine and dandy until somebody wants to overprice. Then they have no frame of reference of why they can't go to the next level. The reason they can't go to the high level is because they don't have a darn basement. And the only homes that sell above them are homes with an unfinished basement. And above that is the high level. The mid level is unfinished basements typically. The low level is slabs. And the reason they can't go up there is because they don't have a basement. So unless you can say, well, I'd love to move you into the mid range, which is 325 to 350, but your home has to kind of hang down here at the 300 range, because unless you're hiding that basement somewhere, we can't sell it at the price of homes with basements, because we're selling it twice. Unless somebody pays cash and does not want to do an appraisal, we have to sell it to the buyer, and then we have to turn around and sell it to the appraiser and the mortgage company. So we've got to get through the comp test. And if we can't get through the comp test, I can't list your house. Not only that, how many of you as buyer's agents do the exact same strategy that you do to price a house to put in an offer? How many of you do the same thing?
Absolutely.
100%. So when I'm on my appointment and I say, oh, you have a great slab, I love it, and the highest slab in here that sold is 310, we could probably, when we look at the numbers, we're probably going to be at that or a little higher. I don't know yet, but we're going to look at it together, because I'm never going to tell them what I think the house is worth yet. We're going to do this together. They're going to self-discover. I would love to sell it at 330, but the houses that sold for 325 and above all have some form of an unfinished basement. So the first thing that a buyer's agent is going to say, if I price your house at 330 and they come with a buyer, is, can you please supply the comps that justify this price? Because my client is getting a mortgage and I don't think it's going to appraise, and I'm not going to have my buyer miss out on another house to invest in financing things and inspection things that I don't think that the bank is finally going to say, yeah, we'll give you the money. It's not going to happen. So please, if there's a comp I missed, I'm all eyes. My buyer's all eyes and ears. But they're not going to overpay for a house. Sorry. That was maybe in 2020 people did that, right? Unfortunately, they have buyer's remorse now, but whatever. So I've got to have the data. And that's another way to tell a seller that wants to overprice. Great. Now, can you tell me how you came up with your price? Well, that's what I need to go buy my next house. Okay, and when you buy the next house, are you going to be willing to pay for them to pay off all their credit card and buy their next house too? Or are you going to want to pay market value? And if you have comps in your mind that you are using, please share. Well, this house sold for $699. Oh, let me look at it. Oh, that was 2.5 years ago. I wish we could use that. But an appraiser is only going to go back 6 months tops if possible. Because homes sell at market value, not at what we feel, not at what we think, and definitely not at what we want. Because if we're going to overprice it, let's just put 2 million on it. Like, let's go for the gusto. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? So we've got to be able to, of course, you're going to do it more professionally and nicely than I'm talking now. But you've got to, that's where your skill comes in at being a good communicator, right? But they've got to see how ridiculous they are. And when you have the data in front of them, they will see it, because you're not saying any of this. The data is going to do it. So let's take a look. What does a spreadsheet look like? Well, let's just pull one up, because you're going to be able to pull this from the MLS. Super easy. I was in too many slides this morning. And you can actually, these are a lot actually easier to make now because we just do it with, we just use we just don't even create these new spreadsheets, but this is what we're trying to show our client. And there's a couple of different things that we're doing. So let me get to the top. Successful, we have 3 of these sheets, 3 Excel spreadsheets, going old school. And the green means they were successful, and we don't call it sold. So we're trying to go in and communicate differently than every other agent. So the first thing we can do is we don't call the comps the same thing that they call it. So our summary sheet of successful sellers is the first one that we put in front of our seller. We bring copies for everybody so they can have it in front of them. We've written on these with pencil or pen. I think Stacy Sugarman writes all over the thing because the best way we can help our clients is to make sure they don't leave money on the table. So price is everything. Time and money. Now, if they have a lot of time, they might want to price differently. That is okay. But if they got to sell, they've got to price it right. So what we're looking at is the address, bedrooms, bathrooms, right here, bedrooms and bathrooms, year built. Does it have a basement and is it finished or unfinished? Square footage. This is the biggie, original list price, sold price. And we do need a days on market. I don't care about the closing date, but we need a days on market and then seller contributions. Now we like to go ahead and bring in the public remarks. There's 2 schools of thought, and agents do it a couple of different ways. Some agents will look through all of the public remarks and they will take out everything and only leave in the bullet points of what contributed to value. Other agents like to leave the whole description so that they can show the seller a good listing agent is going to make people want to pay for things that they shouldn't, like a park-like backyard. That brings no value, but it sure sounds good. So a listing agent is going to use descriptions that are going to hook buyers into one, want to pay the house, and then get emotionally attached. But a good buyer's agent is going to keep them logically justifying. So it just depends how you want to do it. But when I read this, I'm looking here, Craftsman, stone and brick, private estate, compound. Okay, golf course view. I'll give him some value for that, but not the first part. Who cares, right? Craftsman stone. Well, they're probably all Craftsman stone. Views located on the 4th fairway, gated community, spectacular views. No, I'm not going to pay for that. True indoor outer lighting, living experience. I'm not paying for that. Outdoor grilling kitchen. Okay, they'll get value for that because it has a barbecue sink, granite bar. Okay, they'll get some of that. Saltwater, whatever, custom pool. Okay, they'll get value for that. So you see what you're doing? You're trying to pull out. So we're just going to highlight the words in there, if you're leaving it all, as to what brought value. Because I want that person to think if he's going to list for 1.99, he better have all of this. And actually, he needs to list at 1.3 because look at that nice price reduction journey this poor seller went on, who is probably never going to talk to this agent again. Because the minute the sign goes in the yard at 1.9, they're planning their future based off of the income that 1.9 is going to give them. They have emotionally attached themselves to that number, whether it's their decision or not. Whether they know they shouldn't or not is irrelevant because they're always going to blame the agent. They do not want to take responsibility, period, for any ill feelings that they have. That's just life. Nobody wants to take responsibility. They want someone to blame because they don't want to blame themselves. So they really need to be pricing at 1.3. So when you can show someone these 2 columns next to each other, not page by page, people don't remember that page from 10 pages ago. You cannot do page by page data and think that that's tangible or logical. It's not. That they're looking at you going, I want to price it at 2 million and I don't care what you say. Like that's what they're doing. So you've got to break it down to the down and dirty like this, where they're like, ooh, and then you can take them on that journey. Right? Oh, they listed at 1.9. Ooh, I wonder how they felt when they ended up getting 1.39. Ouch. That was probably painful. Right? And then we're going to come down here. Absolutely stunning, right? That I'm not going to pay for stunning, but I'll pay for a saltwater pool. So that brings value. Now this person a little more in line. Look at that. 1.37. They sold. So 25 grand down. Probably stung a little bit, but that's not too bad. Right? And then I'm gonna come here and I'm looking at all these features and I'm saying, now look at this one. They listed at 1,250 and they got, that's a good agent right there. They negotiated up. Good agent right there. See, so now I'm reinforcing what a good agent does. They list it where it should sell. And if you're going to negotiate, you're going to negotiate up, not down, right? Or you're staying the same. Hopefully, unless something drastic happens in the market, we do not want a price reduction. I do not want to have to take you on a price reduction because you are going to not like me anymore. I mean, I would just be saying that you're not going to like me anymore, and I don't want that to happen. Do you think that this seller still likes this agent? Doubtful. I mean, I don't care. I'm saying it. No, I don't know. They could be best friends for all I know, but right. So here's another one, 99,000 lower. So what you're doing is you're looking for 3 different ranges, and the ranges are going to be based off of, you'll see the prices. Most of them are going to have very similar features. So these are all going to be bigger in square footage, right? Built around the same year. Look at all these bedrooms and bathrooms. They're all above $1 million. Then we kind of get down to ones that, oh, now we start getting under $1 million. And now see the bedrooms and bathrooms start coming down, but they still have basements. And then hopefully at the bottom, you'll have slabs, right? This is just an example, but now you'll have the slab homes under 9 because they don't have basements. So how on earth could they get up in the 9s? They're not comparable. So you're either, when a seller enters the market, they're either helping the other people sell or the other people are helping them sell. It's one or the other. So if I'm overpriced, everyone's going to look from apples to apples, oranges to oranges. So they're going to see, what does that person have for that price? What does that person have? Oh, there's one for $950 with an unfinished basement and upgrades galore and a 3rd-car garage. And here's one at $950 on a slab with a 2-car garage and a few nicer things inside. There's no comparison. Like, I'm going for the unfinished basement, unless I just don't want a basement. And then now I feel like, geez, $950 and I could have that, but I don't want that. Well, I don't want to pay $950 for this because now I've overpriced. So I don't want to do that. So you've got to put your seller in the buyer's shoes. You've got to let them know what buyers are looking at, good buyers agents, and we want to work with the best buyers agents out there because we want to get your home sold, right? They are going to ask for comps to justify the price. We sell it twice unless it's cash, and there's still a chance a cash person is going to say, I want an appraisal. Now, in 2020, I think people were like, waive the appraisal, waive the inspection, all the things that hurt everyone in the market. It hurt buyers, it hurt sellers. It was awful. I'm just glad that I wasn't in it. Sorry, but I just think it was awful for everybody. And some people are still living with that buyer's remorse and that decision that they made, it's unfortunate. They spent cash, and now they're attached to an interest rate in a house that they don't even want. It's really not good. So
Holly,
we want to yes.
I'll make this real quick, but
Yeah.
two things. One, these people put all this money in their houses, and you get an appraisal done. The house I told you about that had all the showings. I finally talked them into an appraisal, and it needed a complete update. The appraiser didn't knock them for anything, and they don't give them credit for anything. So how do you overcome that?
Well, I think pre-listing appraisals are very difficult because it's not looking at someone. We've always said pre-appraisals are not the same as an appraisal of a new person going with
Well,
a
now this one
contract
was done in the middle of the listing.
with an offer.
No, because I couldn't get an offer. I was trying to get him down, and when I don't like doing price reductions either, but I got him down because I knew he was going to sell the house, and I knew I was the guy. So then but the appraisal, because I'd already had it on the market for 4 months, and the appraiser appraised it for more than I had it listed at.
Yeah, but I think it's risky because you could then turn around the next day and get another appraiser and he's going to use different comps. They're subjective.
I
That's
completely
why.
agree.
Yeah.
I'm
So
saying they just look at what's there, and they don't give you value or knock you from what I've seen.
No, and it's not a true sale. So they can't look at what the demand was. They're not going to look at any of the things that an appraiser that's going out for a new sale is doing compared to just an opinion appraisal. Like there's different criteria. You can ask them. They're not operating under the same things because now there hasn't been a sale yet. A sale gives a different weight because now they're going to start looking at, was it increasing demand, lower demand? You know what I mean? They look
I
at different
agree.
factors.
I agree. And
I don't
you
like
would have,
I mean, you could do a pre-listing to get a frame of reference. I'm just saying it's not an end all be all, but either is any of them. They're all subjective, and that's like so annoying, right?
Yeah,
I
I
Yeah.
hate that.
typically only do those when it's a unique property and I'm just concerned that I won't get them as much as I need to. So that's really the only time that I do them. But it's more at that point, you know, because the solds and stuff, they actually don't make as big of an impact as who are you competing against now. That's the big thing is who's your competition now? And do you want to help them or do you want them to help you? And you know, because it's interesting. But also when people ask me to overprice a listing, I honestly tell them, I'm sorry, but it goes against the code of ethics. I don't want to get in trouble. No sale is worth my license. And you know, if that's where you want to be, I'm just gonna have to tell you I've got to walk because I'm not gonna do that. You can find somebody else to do it all day long and then you'll be mad at them later because you will do a bunch of price reductions. But the question is what is your goal? Do you just want it to sit on the market? Because that's not what I do. But if you want it to sell, then let's put it where it's going to sell. And if that's not what you want, then we're just not a good fit. There's no harm, no foul, you know. But I don't want to put. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to put marketing effort and money and stuff into something that's going nowhere because I have an unrealistic seller.
Well,
That's
and I love that you brought up the code of ethics, and I think more realtors should because it, it absolutely is in the code of ethics, and we are realtors, and I think it's a great point to just reinforce that little, point about the code of ethics, and I think that's great, and you should stand by that. We should all be doing that. We should all be bringing up that code of ethics a lot more. Because there's a lot of people in Atlanta that are not realtors, and everybody wants to call themselves a realtor. They're not. Not everybody is a realtor. And if we don't distinguish it, NAR's not going to, right? I don't know that they do a good job of distinguishing what it is or what it isn't, but there's no reason that we can't refer to the things in that code of ethics that are real, that we do take seriously. And I'm with you. I think overpricing, when you know it's overpriced, you either didn't walk away, didn't do a good job of explaining it, or you have someone that's unreasonable, right? And we get to choose, like you said, Stacy. I
that's
don't.
doing a disservice to your
It
disservice to your
is.
client.
Plus, it's setting that expectation like this 1.3 after they
Yeah.
listed at 1.9. Could you? I'd be so pissed off.
Mhm.
I mean, I really would. I would be so discouraged. Even if it was me that said, "Oh, I want to price it at that." They'll price it right if you show them data like this, where it's got the ranges, because then you can just say, "Okay, so you want to be up here. You want to get 1 million, like that one that you have, White. So you want to get 900, but everything else that's up here in that has this, and this. So tell me how that like how do you see that from like a buyer's perspective? Like I'm just trying to understand how you can try to price something and get something from a free market that doesn't have what the market conditions are doing. Like where the
Well,
actual sales are.
Holly, what they told me was it was the agent they used was a family member, done nothing, and it reminded me of the statement on the. I went back yesterday and watched some of the Buffini things, the first one, and he's like, "We're all being thrown in a blender, and we're all the same." That's what they all think.
Hmm.
Do you agree?
Mhm.
I do. And I think that's why differentiating yourself and over delivering on and over under, what is it? Over deliver,
Under
under,
promise, over deliver.
oh yeah. over deliver. I think that's so important. That's why when you're like, the perfect example is our market report. So the market report that we send to everybody once a month in Bold Trail is great for all of our Sphere past clients, but your current sellers, they need to be getting that market report every 7 days. They get the seller report, they get the market report, and they get anything that's entering the market because they're all affecting their price. But if I look at the latest market report in Swanee, and it says that the average sale price is $858 and the average sale price is $699. And I'm sitting on a listing for $950 and they're getting that report every 7 days. That's like, oh, average sale price is 8 something. Average sold price is 6 something. Now I don't have to, I'm going to tell them, hey, it looks like the market right now, demand seems to be in the sixes. Now, if I just tell them that and I don't show them that with a weekly market report, they're going to be mad at me. They're going to be like, oh, you don't like my house anymore. You're trashing my house. You don't think it's ever going to sell. Blah, blah, blah. But if I'm just sending them that market report and they're seeing the data right under their nose, they're going to be like, numbers don't lie. Data doesn't lie. You've got to show and tell, show and tell. You got to do both. So if you're not using that market report, if nothing else in there for your current sellers to see what's happening every 7 days where they live, you're missing out on a way to over communicate. Because there's 3 things that we do in there in Bold Trail for our sellers. And that is, we've got to be showing them our efforts with the seller report. We've got to be showing them what's happening in the general market. And then we have to let them know when a home enters the market in their neighborhood. So those are the things that are going to affect their impact. So just quick, getting back, we have our successful sellers is in green. Then we pull up our expireds, but we don't call them expireds. And we have the same 3 levels. We have the same 3 areas, the high range, the mid range, and the low range, based off of the features, square footage, date, all of that. We have that range. And we call those rejected by the market. We don't really have to say that, but we have it up at the top in red. It'll say summary sheet rejected by the market. And then we just say, hey, these are all the folks that they didn't hit the mark. So the market just said, no, we don't want it. So as you can see, a lot of these homes were in the level above where they really should have been priced. Then after we do that, we go through the net sheet and then we say, hey, where do you see your house in the successful seller sheet? We say, which range do you think you fall into? Well, I think I fall into the middle range. I have an unfinished basement. I think I should be somewhere between 950 and 1, whatever. And it's like, okay, yep. So what's Bold Trail? Bold Trail is our CRM. So Bold Trail is the new CRM that everybody has access to from RE/MAX. You get a website and you get the CRM. It's like a Boomtown, but it's better because Inside Real Estate bought Boomtown. So it's our great CRM platform. So now I can say, okay, let's just say we don't know what you're going to be priced at, but you're in that range from 945 to 1 million. So you're going to fall somewhere in here. Let's go ahead and just take a middle of the road and do a net sheet. So then we go through the net sheet with them together. And that way we can say we're going to pretend and do a dummy offer. Let's just pretend we listed at 950 and we actually get a 950 offer. It looks like there's not much seller contributions right now. So we'll put 0 in seller contributions in this price point. And then you have your normal things you have to pay off. You have to pay off your mortgage. Let's just say there's 5,000 in inspections, right? We don't know, it's a ballpark. And then we go through that net sheet and say they're going to net 375 after they pay everything off at 950. I'm going to do the net sheet in front of them and then I'm going to circle the number. And then I'm going to hand it to them and say, okay, so what do you think about that number right there? And right there, I'm going to get them to say, oh, no, we need way more than that. Or they're going to say, that's more than we thought. Oh, that's not bad, right? So I'm going to know exactly who's sitting on the other side of the table when I put the number right in front of their nose. And then I'm going to say, oh, you need more? Okay, well, what were you thinking that you were wanting to walk away with? Well, it says 375, but I'll be honest, Holly, 400 was really our number. Okay, well, guess what? We haven't looked at the direct competition yet. So we might be able to find that when we actually look at who's actually in the market right now. So let's go to the third spreadsheet and let's see what the middle range looks like of the people that are currently on the market. And then right now, the prices might be anywhere from 960 to 1.1, right? They could have nudged up a little bit. You already know before you go on the appointment, but you are not giving it up. Do not tell them anything. Let them self-discover. But once you know that you're like, okay, now I got 25,000 to make up. Well, good thing the prices are higher, right? And then I can just, now I bring them and I say, well, look at this. The middle range is actually 960 to 1.1. So why don't we look at what each one of those is offering and see how yours compares to it? And then that'll be our price entry point, depending on your timing. If you have to go quick, we're going to price at the low end. If you have time, let's price at the higher end. Because now you have time. And as long as your comps matter, remember, you're either helping them sell or they're helping you sell. But once they're off the market, they're gone. But yes, they're turning into a comp. So once you kind of get into this rhythm, you'll be able to kind of bob and weave the way it makes sense for you. But these spreadsheets can completely be done through FMLS, and you can just do a custom export. So if you come into the MLS and pull up your properties, like this is a good one. It's great when we have 50 comps, right? This is Hamilton Mill. But you can choose the ones you want. And once you've selected the ones that you want to put into your spreadsheets, right? You have active, 3 spreadsheets, active and pending or whatever, active and pending, rejected by the market and closed. Once you have those, then you're just going to come down to the bottom and you're going to hit export. And then we have a bunch of ours already done. We have our successful sellers. We already have these reports created. And then you just hit export custom report and then you can just use it. So it'll let you know what you're pulling, and then you just hit, but I hit save instead of export. But anyway, that I can show you how to do that if you want to know how to do that. But bringing these spreadsheets and setting proper expectations, talk about days on market, how it's increased, and do it by price point. So if you're going to talk about the market and you're going on a home in the 900s, talk about the market from 850 to $1 million, right? Do a price range, do a range. Don't do the whole everything. When it comes to days on market, those are things you should be looking at in the price point that they're entering the market, because each price point is going to have a different little flair for days on market. It's going to be a little longer for those higher priced. So do it in a price range. The other thing that you want to do, that was on the top of my head on that, hold on, was, you should be tracking how many showings until you get an offer. So I know White, you were saying, oh, we had 115, showings. Keep it for you, keep an average, because this is one that'll really help you. If you say to them, hey, when we go on the market, what we're seeing right now is typically between 10 and 13 showings. Usually we'll starting to get close and we'll probably get a bite. Now, when they have their second showing and they're like, oh my God, do they like it? Oh my God, we're not getting an offer. Say, hey, 2 down. Remember, the average right now is anywhere from 13 to 15. So, hey, 2 down. We only have 11 to go. Maybe it'll be sooner. Come on, let's stay positive, right? But if they don't have a frame of reference, they just think the first person's going to walk in and buy the house. We've got to be setting all these expectations so that now they're like, oh, okay, well, that was only 2. Yep, that was only 2. Geez, we got 2 down. We got a couple more to go. Don't worry about it. No, this is good, right? You've got to be able to keep them feeling good, keep them on your side, keep them positive. And the other thing I tell people, and Stacy probably remembers, and White, because and BJ, and John, because in his 34 years, remember those average days on market. I used to say, listen, I know that when your home is on the market, 7 days is going to feel like 7 years because it just is. But we're going to try to make this as pleasant, inconvenient, as quick and painless as possible. I'm going to keep you updated every week of what's happening. Some weeks I'm going to say, hey, I have all this going on. Some weeks I'm going to say it's a little bit light. And some weeks I'm going to say, it was crickets, right? But if you set that expectation up front, now when you call and say, hey, remember when I said I might call and it's crickets? This was one of those weeks. Maybe it had to do because it was spring break. I don't know, but it was kind of quiet, right? So if you do that, the people are like, I used to have clients going, geez, Holly, are you okay? Our house hasn't sold yet. I'd be like, I know, it's okay. But you've got to get on their side and you've got to know that you feel their pain and you've got to say, I've sold my house too. Oh, it's not easy. I know, but we're going to do this together. We can do it. Get in the reality of it. Nobody likes selling their house. So we're dealing, like Brian says, when people are at their stressed, not when they're at their best. So we've got to be able to make them feel good. The other presentation, quick, and I will send this, is an old one that Pat and I did. I don't know if Stacy, if you remember this one, but White and I do, but it was the red light, green light. And this one was one that will give them a frame of reference about their motivation, competition, and the strategy. And it was all around this. And I think, John, you had mentioned it. They just didn't really need to sell. It's about whether they'd like to sell. See, they're going to price it high if they like to sell. If they need to sell, they're going to be a little more motivated. They'll be in that middle range. But if they have to go, they're going to price it low. They're going to price it green. Green's got to go. Need is yellow. And red is like, well, if I want to. So when you take them through this, would you like to sell? Need to sell? When you do this, oh my gosh, I would jazz it up. This looked good back in, when was this from, you guys? Like
90s.
2005, 6?
Maybe.
I have to go look and see the year that we created this. But we talked about absorption rate back then. It was the old logo, so you can tell this is a long time ago. How do buyers determine value? Well, they still do comparison shopping. They're going to look at your house compared to another house compared to. Buying a house is the process of elimination, not selection. They're trying to eliminate homes. So this one is I would go through this, jazz it up, or at least take some of these snippets. Like, is your home below average, average, or above average? Because this was great. And then another one that we loved was showing and staging. What is the room used for something other than originally intended? So that was always the pool table in the dining room. Right? When people are using a room in the house for something other than most people's brain thinks, they think that it's below average. Something's wrong, not enough room, old school, outdated. Like, it's just the way people think. So this was a great, great presentation. I loved using this. And then we've kind of dusted it off, although you can tell I have not, I haven't updated the graphics because I'm not good at that, but you guys can do that. So update this, then you look at the competition. So this is just the second one. If you price it too high, there's not going to be a sale. If it's average, it's going to be a longer market time. And if you want success, we just got to price it green. Greens is where we got to go. So lots of good stuff to unpack in here. You'll get both presentations. You'll get the 7-step pricing strategy and a marketing flyer that goes with it. We put it in all of our postcards. Joe and Sue hired us because we take an invested approach to selling homes, and our 7-step pricing strategy and 15-point exposure plan get results fast. If you're thinking of moving in the next 6 to 8 months, we want to talk to you today. Like, if you're using verbiage like that with call to actions and trademarks, it gets people's attention. So if you need help, if you're doing postcards, if you're doing digital postcards, please, we have verbiage that is getting the phone to ring. So please reach out and we will share all that with you. But remember, everybody, oh, the last thing really quick, make sure you're still going to Zillow, to Realtor.com, to Remax.com, to the tax record, and you are taking a snippet of every online home valuator and putting it on a Word doc and putting it down on that table the minute you get in there. You need to show them how inaccurate and how crazy the ranges are of all those, because they've been to every website trying to find the one that's going to give them the highest amount, and then they're going to hold you to it. So you need to print them all, put them on a sheet of paper and say, well, now that you're moving, I'm sure you've been trying to find your home value online like everybody. I went and looked too. Wow, isn't it crazy, the price ranges? Good thing we don't let computers price our homes, right? If you're not putting that in front of their nose and they don't bring it up and they say, we need to think about it. A lot of times they need to think about it because you didn't hit the mark and they're not bold enough to say, our estimate was 200,000 above you. Not everybody's bold enough to just say that, but they might be thinking it. So you got to make sure you address that right when you walk in the door. All right. Any final thoughts?
How many comparables do you suggest for each sheet?
Well, if you can get 3 in each range, which would be a total of 9, that would be awesome.
9.
The more the better, because you need to show them every house that's sold. So if you're going on a slab appointment, there should be finished basements, unfinished basements, slabs. If you're going on finished basements, they're going to be in the high range. They're going to be happy because they're in the high range because they're not going to sell where slabs were. So now they can feel good about theirs. And if they're a slab, they just need to see the reality. I'd love to sell it at the higher price, but unless you're hiding a basement somewhere, we can't sell there. Sorry. So
Yeah.
always bring all the homes, not just the comps of what you're seeking. That's the mistake. Because now
Mm.
they think they can go higher because they don't have any frame of reference to understand why they can't. So we've got to be the ones that are presenting it in a tangible and logical way. They will self-discover. And I know Stacy uses this, and a lot of people were just showing people what was rejected by the market and still getting wins. Like people are like, this is a game changer. Using this and taking our time with them and showing them that this is the value I bring. Everybody can put it in the MLS. Everybody can run a Facebook ad. Everybody can hold an open house. Everybody has a lockbox. But this is where they really care. It's they don't want to leave money on the table. So in the pricing presentation, there's a lot of dialogues in the back of that document. So look through those dialogues because they're really good. All right, so I'll include those 2 presentations, the recording of this for everybody that's on the call, and we'll put it in the Facebook group. So it'll be in the RE/MAX Center Facebook group, and then I'll post it in the Metro Facebook group as well. The recording will be in there and the handouts if I can attach files, which I think I can. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody for attending. Appreciate it. Hope you got some nuggets for pricing, and let's go be part of that 216 that sells 50% of the market.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Holly.
everybody. Have a good one.
Bye.